I should have seen the signs. Looking back now, sitting in this cramped bedroom that smells of lavender, air freshener, and old memories, I can trace the threads of deception that led to this moment. But mothers, we have this dangerous gift of believing in our children, even when the evidence screams otherwise. My name is Margaret Walsh, and I'm 58 years old. 3 months ago, I owned a 3-bedroom colonial house in Riverside, California, with a garden that took me 23 years to perfect. Today, I'm living in my sister's spare room, sleeping on a twin bed that creaks every time I turn over, wondering how the person I raised could have destroyed everything I built. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I was deadheading my roses, the morning sun warm on my shoulders, thinking about nothing more complicated than whether to plant tomatoes or peppers in the vegetable patch this year. The house phone rang from inside, and I almost didn't answer it. I was expecting a call from my doctor's office about routine blood work. Nothing urgent. Mrs. Walsh, this is Jennifer Coleman from First National Bank. I'm calling about your recent loan application. I stood there in my muddy gardening clothes, the pruning shears still in my gloved hand, confused. I'm sorry. There must be some mistake. I didn't apply for any loan. There was a pause on the other end, the kind of pause that makes your stomach drop before you even know why. Ma'am, we have a loan application here for $65,000, approved and disbursed last week. Your signature is on all the paperwork. My legs felt weak. I sank into the kitchen chair, still holding those damn pruning shears. That's impossible. I would never. I don't need a loan. There has to be an error. Mrs. Walsh, I'm going to need you to come in. We need to verify some information with you. The drive to the bank felt like moving through thick water. Everything seemed surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. I kept thinking there would be a simple explanation, a computer glitch, a case of mistaken identity. But when Jennifer Coleman spread those papers across her desk, I saw my signature clear as day. Except I had never signed those papers. The handwriting was almost perfect. Almost. But I knew my own signature better than anyone. And there were tiny differences. The way the M curved slightly differently. The way the W was just a fraction too neat. Someone had practiced this, had taken time to get it right. Do you have any idea who might have access to your personal information? Jennifer asked, her voice professionally gentle but with an edge of concern. I did know. God help me. I knew exactly who had access to everything. My son Daniel had been staying with me on and off for the past 6 months. He was 26, bouncing between jobs, always talking about his next big opportunity. He'd been handling some of my paperwork lately, helping me organize my files, saying it was time I got everything digital and modern. I need to make a phone call, I told Jennifer, my voice barely above a whisper. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot, my hands shaking as I dialed Daniel's number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice bright and cheerful. Hey, Mom, how's your day going? Daniel! I couldn't keep the tremor out of my voice. I'm at the bank. They're saying someone took out a loan in my name. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed completely. Mom, I can explain. You can explain? You can explain how my signature ended up on loan documents I never signed? It's not what you think. I was going to tell you. I just needed some startup capital for this cryptocurrency opportunity. And I knew you'd say no because you don't understand how these things work. I felt something break inside my chest. You forged my signature. You stole from me. I didn't steal anything. Mom, listen to me. This is a sure thing. I've been working with this group, and they've got this system that's guaranteed to double your money in 3 weeks. I was going to pay back the loan and give you half the profits. You would have thanked me. Where's the money now, Daniel? Another pause. There was a technical issue. The platform went down temporarily. But they're fixing it. These things happen in crypto. It's all part of the process. I closed my eyes, pressing my forehead against the steering wheel. The money is gone, isn't it? It's not gone. It's just temporarily inaccessible. Mom, you're making this into a bigger deal than it is. This happens all the time. The money will bounce back. Daniel, I need you to fix this. I need you to find a way to get that money back and pay off this loan. I'm working on it, okay? But you need to calm down. It's not that big of a deal, Mom. It'll bounce back. Not that big of a deal. Those words echoed in my head as I drove home. $65,000. My emergency fund. My security. My peace of mind. Not that big of a deal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, touching the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished, the garden I'd planted tree by tree, flower by flower. This house wasn't just where I lived. It was my sanctuary, my achievement, my proof that I'd made something of myself after my husband died 8 years ago. I'd bought this house when Daniel was 3, after the divorce. I was working 2 jobs then, cleaning offices at night and working at a dental office during the day. I remember the day I signed the mortgage papers. How proud I felt. How secure. I was giving my son stability, a place to grow up, a foundation. For the next 2 weeks, I called Daniel every day. His responses went from reassuring to defensive to angry. The cryptocurrency platform, he claimed, was restructuring. The money was tied up in smart contracts that would resolve themselves soon. He used words I didn't understand, technical jargon that made me feel stupid and old. You don't understand how blockchain works, Mom. You can't just expect immediate results. This is sophisticated financial technology. But I knew what I understood. I understood that my credit score was tanking. I understood that the bank was calling every other day. I understood that the loan payments were due, and I didn't have $65,000 to pay them. I made appointments with financial advisors, with lawyers, with anyone who might help me understand my options. The news was always the same. The debt was in my name. The signature, forged or not, was legally binding until I could prove fraud, and proving fraud against my own son would require pressing criminal charges. You could file a police report, one lawyer told me. If you can prove your son forged your signature, you might be able to get the debt discharged. But it would mean he'd likely face criminal charges. I sat in that lawyer's office, staring at the certificates on his wall, thinking about Daniel as a little boy. How he used to climb into bed with me during thunderstorms. How proud he was when he learned to ride his bike. How he cried when his goldfish died, and we buried it in the backyard. I couldn't do it. I couldn't send my son to prison. The foreclosure notice arrived on a Thursday. I found it taped to my front door when I came home from grocery shopping, the white paper stark against the dark wood. I stood there holding my bags of groceries, reading the legal language that basically said I had 30 days to pay the full amount or lose my house. I called Daniel one more time. Mom, I told you I'm working on it. You're being dramatic. Daniel, they're foreclosing on my house. I'm going to lose everything. That's not going to happen. Look, I've got a lead on another opportunity. There's this group doing NFTs, and they're looking for investors. If I can get in on the ground floor. I hung up on him. For the first time in his life, I hung up on my son. The next morning, I called a real estate agent. Selling the house was like watching my life be dismantled piece by piece. Strangers walked through my home, opening closets, commenting on the wallpaper, calculating how much it would cost to update my kitchen. My kitchen, where I'd made thousands of meals, where Daniel had done his homework at the counter, where I'd celebrated every small victory and mourned every loss. The house sold faster than I expected, The market was good, the agent said. I should feel fortunate. I got enough to pay off the loan and have a little left over, but not enough to buy another house, not enough to start over. My sister Patricia had offered me her spare room months earlier, back when this all started. Just until you get back on your feet, she'd said. At the time, I'd thought it would be temporary, a week or two while I figured out how to fix this mess. Now, standing in my empty house for the last time, I realized this might be my new reality. I left my keys on the kitchen counter and walked out the front door, carrying 2 suitcases and a box of photo albums. 23 years of my life reduced to what could fit in my sister's car. Patricia lives in a small ranch house in Moreno Valley, about 20 miles from my old neighborhood. She's been divorced for 10 years, works as a bookkeeper, and has 2 cats named Jasper and Rosie. She's 5 years older than me, and has always been the practical one, the one who saved money and lived below her means. I can't believe he did this to you, she said, helping me carry my things into the spare room. I never trusted that boy. Don't, I said. Please don't. Margaret, you have to face reality. Daniel is not the son you raised. He's a selfish, manipulative man who destroyed his own mother's life for a get-rich-quick scheme. I knew she was right, but hearing it out loud felt like a knife in my chest. He's still my son. When's the last time he called you? When's the last time he even asked how you're doing? I couldn't answer because I didn't want to admit the truth. It had been 3 weeks since I'd heard from Daniel. 3 weeks since I'd moved out of my house, and he hadn't called once. The spare room is small, maybe 10 feet by 12, with a single window that looks out onto Patricia's backyard. There's a twin bed, a small dresser, and a desk that Patricia uses for her craft projects. She cleared out half the closet for me, moving her Christmas decorations to the garage. It's not permanent, she keeps saying, just until you figure out what's next. But lying in that narrow bed at night, listening to the sounds of a house that isn't mine, I wonder what exactly comes next for a 58-year-old woman who's lost everything. I have some savings left from the house sale, but not enough to live on indefinitely. My resume is sparse. I worked part-time at the library for 15 years, but I've been retired for 3 years now. Who's going to hire a nearly 60-year-old woman with a 3-year gap in her employment history? I spend my days looking for work, filling out applications online, calling about positions that seem suited for someone with my limited experience. Retail work, mostly. Administrative assistant positions, part-time customer service jobs. The responses are polite but clear. We've decided to go with someone else. Someone younger, someone with more recent experience. At night, I lie awake thinking about Daniel. I wonder if he thinks about me, if he feels any guilt about what he's done. I wonder if he tells himself stories that make him the victim, that make his actions seem justified. I wonder if he even knows I've lost the house. Sometimes I imagine calling him, but then I remember his last words to me. It's not that big of a deal, Mom. It'll bounce back. My whole life bouncing back. Patricia tries to be supportive, but I can see the strain in her eyes. She's not used to sharing her space, and I'm not used to being a burden. We bump into each other in the bathroom in the mornings. She apologizes when she wants to watch a different TV show. I apologize for everything, for existing, for taking up space, for needing help. You don't have to apologize for being human, she tells me. You're my sister. This is what family does. But Daniel was my family too, and look how that turned out. It's been 3 months now, and I'm starting to accept that this might be my life. I found a part-time job at a local grocery store, working the early morning shift, stocking shelves and helping customers find what they need. It's not enough to live on independently, but it's something. It's purpose. It's a reason to get up in the morning. The other employees are mostly younger, college students and people working second jobs. They're nice enough, but I feel the generational gap. They talk about social media and dating apps and career goals, while I'm just trying to figure out how to survive. My supervisor is a woman named Rosa, about my age, who's been working retail for 20 years. She has a gentle way about her, and she doesn't make me feel stupid when I need help with the computer systems, or when I move slower than the younger employees. "You're doing fine," she tells me when I apologize for taking too long to learn the inventory system. Everyone starts somewhere. One day, Rosa asks me to stay after my shift to help with a large delivery. We're unloading boxes of canned goods, and she asks me about my background. "I used to own a house," I tell her. Not sure why I'm sharing this. "I used to have a garden. I grew the most beautiful roses." "What happened?" she asks. And something about the way she asks makes me think she's heard stories like mine before. So I tell her. I tell her about Daniel, about the loan, about losing everything. I tell her about the foreclosure notice and the empty house and the twin bed in my sister's spare room. I tell her about the silence, about how my son disappeared from my life the moment he got what he wanted. Rosa nods, stacking cans of green beans with practiced efficiency. "My daughter did something similar," she says. "Not the same, but similar. She stole my credit cards, ran up thousands of dollars in debt. I had to file for bankruptcy." "How do you—" I start to ask, then stop. "How do you what? How do you forgive? How do you move on? How do you stop loving someone who's destroyed you? How do you live with it?" I finally ask. "One day at a time," Rosa says. "And by understanding that their choices aren't about you. They're about them. You raised him the best you could. What he became after that was his choice. But I feel like I failed him somehow. Like I should have seen this coming." "Did you teach him to lie?" "No." "Did you teach him to steal?" "No." "Did you teach him to hurt people he's supposed to love?" "No." "Then you didn't fail him. He failed himself." That night, I lie in the twin bed, thinking about what Rosa said. I think about all the times I made excuses for Daniel, all the times I cleaned up his messes, all the times I told myself he was just going through a phase. I think about how I enabled his irresponsibility by always being there to catch him when he fell. Maybe I did fail him, but not in the way I thought. Maybe I failed him by not letting him fail himself. The next week, I get a call that changes everything. It's from a woman named Jennifer, but not the Jennifer from the bank. This Jennifer works for a non-profit organization called Fresh Start, which helps people rebuild their lives after financial disasters. "I got your name from Rosa Martinez," she says. "She thought you might be interested in some of our programs. Fresh Start, it turns out, offers financial counseling, job training, and housing assistance for people who have experienced sudden financial hardship. They have a program specifically for older adults who've been victims of financial abuse by family members. It's more common than you think," Jennifer tells me when I meet her at their office in downtown Riverside. Adult children taking advantage of their parents' trust, their access to financial information, their reluctance to press charges. You're not alone in this. The support group meets every Wednesday evening in a conference room at the Fresh Start office. There are 12 of us, all between the ages of 50 and 75, all betrayed by our own children. There's Robert, whose son emptied his retirement account for a gambling addiction. There's Maria, whose daughter used her credit cards to fund a luxury lifestyle. There's David, whose son took out a second mortgage on his house without his knowledge. Our stories are different, but the pain is the same. The disbelief, the shame, the grief for the children we thought we knew. The financial devastation is terrible, but it's the emotional devastation that's hardest to bear. "I keep thinking about what I did wrong," Maria says during one of our meetings. Where did I go wrong as a mother? You didn't go wrong, says Dr. Linda Chen, the psychologist who facilitates our group. You trusted your child. That's what parents do. The betrayal is about their character, not yours. But how do I stop feeling responsible? I ask. How do I stop thinking that if I'd been a better mother, this wouldn't have happened? You start by understanding that you can't control another person's choices. Dr. Chen says, you can influence them, guide them, set boundaries. But ultimately, every person is responsible for their own decisions. Your son chose to forge your signature. Your son chose to steal from you. Your son chose to disappear when the consequences came due. Those were his choices, not yours. The group becomes a lifeline for me. For the first time in months, I'm around people who understand what I'm going through. People who don't judge me for not pressing charges, who don't think I'm weak for still loving my son, despite what he's done. Through Fresh Start, I also begin working with a financial advisor who specializes in rebuilding after financial trauma. We create a budget based on my grocery store income, explore options for increasing my earning potential, and develop a plan for eventually saving enough to rent my own apartment. It's not about getting back to where you were, she tells me. It's about building something new, something that's truly yours. I start taking a computer class at the community college, learning skills that might help me find better employment. I'm older than most of the other students, but I'm not the oldest. There's a woman named Betty who's 72 and learning to use social media to promote her bakery business. There's a man named Frank who's 65 and getting certified to teach English as a second language. It's never too late to start over, Betty tells me one evening after class. I lost my husband 5 years ago, and I thought my life was over. But look at me now. I'm running a business, meeting new people, learning new things. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you opens the door to the best thing that happens to you. I'm not ready to think of this as the best thing that's ever happened to me. But I'm starting to see possibilities I hadn't considered before. For 23 years, my life revolved around that house, that garden, that routine. Maybe there's something to be said for being forced out of your comfort zone. I apply for a full-time position at a different grocery store, one that offers benefits and opportunities for advancement. To my surprise, I get the job. The manager, a woman named Carol, tells me she was impressed by my maturity and reliability. We've had too many young employees who don't show up or quit without notice, she says. We need people who understand the value of work. With the new job comes the possibility of independence. I start looking at small apartments in my price range, places where I can rebuild my life on my own terms. They're not much, studios and one-bedrooms in older buildings, but they're mine, or they will be. I haven't heard from Daniel in 5 months now. Sometimes I wonder if he even knows where I am, if he's tried to call the house phone that's been disconnected. But I realize that if he really wanted to find me, he could. He knows Patricia's name. He knows where she lives. He knows where I used to work. His silence is a choice, just like everything else he's done. I'm learning to live with that silence. I'm learning to live without the constant hope that my phone will ring and he'll be on the other end, apologizing, promising to make things right. I'm learning to live without the fantasy that he'll suddenly become the son I raised, the son I thought I knew. The hardest part is accepting that the Daniel I loved, the little boy who used to bring me dandelions and call them flowers, might never have existed. Or maybe he did exist, but he grew into someone else, someone I don't recognize and can't reach. Dr. Chen says this is normal, this process of grieving for the child you thought you had. It's like a death, she explains. You're mourning the loss of the person you believed your son to be. That's a real loss, and it deserves to be grieved. Some days are harder than others. Some days I see a young man who reminds me of Daniel, or I hear a song that takes me back to when he was small, and the grief hits me like a physical weight. But most days now, I'm okay. I'm building something new, something that belongs to me alone. I found a small apartment in a complex that allows pets, so I'm thinking about getting a cat. I've never had pets before, but the idea of coming home to something that needs me, something that will be happy to see me, appeals to me. Patricia thinks it's a good idea. Animals don't betray you, she says. They love you unconditionally, and they never forge your signature. I laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. And I've done enough crying. The apartment is a studio with a small balcony where I can put some plants. It's not much, but it's mine. When I sign the lease, I feel something I haven't felt in months. Pride. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm building something new. Moving day is bittersweet. Patricia helps me move my few belongings, and I can see she's emotional about me leaving. We've grown closer over these past months, closer than we've been since we were children. Living together has reminded us of what we like about each other, what we've missed. You know you can always come back, she says, as we arrange my furniture in the small space. If you need anything, if you get lonely, if you just want company. I know, I tell her. And thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. That's what family does, she says. And I think about how different that word means now. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them, who make room for you in their lives, who love you even when you're broken. My first night in the apartment, I sit on my small balcony with a cup of tea, looking out at the parking lot and the palm trees beyond. It's not the view I had from my old house, but it's mine. I'm starting over at 58, which isn't how I imagined my life would go. But maybe that's okay. Maybe there's something to be said for second chances, for the opportunity to build something that's truly yours. I think about Daniel sometimes, but less often now. I wonder if he's learned anything from what happened, if he's grown or changed or found some better version of himself. I hope he has, not for my sake, but for his. I hope he's found peace with what he's done, because I'm finding peace with what I'm doing. I'm learning to forgive myself for the choices I made as a mother, for the ways I enabled him, for the times I should have said no and didn't. I'm learning to forgive him too, not because he deserves it, but because carrying anger and resentment is too heavy a burden for this new life I'm building. The support group continues to meet, and I continue to go. I'm one of the success stories now, one of the people who's moved forward, who's rebuilt. New members join regularly, people fresh from their own betrayals, their own losses. I try to be for them what the others were for me when I first arrived, broken and confused and sure that my life was over. It gets better, I tell them. And I mean it. It gets different. It gets smaller in some ways, bigger in others. But it gets better. My job at the grocery store turns out to be more than just a paycheck. I'm good at it. Good at helping customers. Good at training new employees. Good at solving problems. Carol promotes me to assistant manager after 6 months, which comes with a raise and more responsibility. You're a natural leader, she tells me. You have this way of making people feel comfortable, of helping them without making them feel stupid. I think about that, about how my life experience, including the bad parts, has given me something valuable to offer. I've learned empathy the hard way, learned compassion through suffering, learned strength through surviving. The apartment becomes home slowly, one small addition at a time. I buy a small bookshelf and fill it with books from the library's used book sale. I get a coffee table from a thrift store and refinish it myself. I plant herbs on the balcony, nothing fancy, Just basil and rosemary and mint. But they grow and thrive in the California sun. I don't have a garden anymore, but I have these small green things that depend on me, that reward my care with growth and beauty. It's not the same as my old garden, but it's something. It's a start. One day, almost a year after I moved into the apartment, I'm watering my herbs when my phone rings. I don't recognize the number, but something about it seems familiar. I answer cautiously. Mom, my heart stops. After all these months, after all the silence, there's Daniel's voice in my ear. Older somehow, tireder, but unmistakably him. Daniel, I say, sitting down heavily on my balcony chair. I've been trying to find you, he says. I went to the house, but there are other people living there now. I called Aunt Patricia, but she wouldn't tell me where you were. She was protecting me, I say. From me? Mom, I'm your son. Are you? The question comes out before I can stop it. Because the son I raised wouldn't have forged my signature. The son I raised wouldn't have stolen from me. The son I raised wouldn't have disappeared when I needed him most. There's a long pause. I know I messed up, he says finally. I know I hurt you, but I'm trying to make it right now. How? How are you trying to make it right? I got a job, a real job. I'm in Phoenix now, working construction. I'm clean, Mom. I'm sober. I'm trying to get my life together. That's good, I say. And I mean it. I'm glad you're doing better. I want to pay you back. I want to make up for what I did. With what money, Daniel? You said you're working construction. Do you have $65,000 plus interest? Not yet, but I'm working on it. I'm saving every penny I can. I know it'll take time, but I'm committed to making this right. I look out at my small balcony, at my herbs growing in their pots, at the life I've built from nothing. I don't need your money, Daniel. What do you mean? I mean, I don't need you to pay me back. I've moved on. I've built something new. But I want to make it right. I want to fix what I broke. You can't fix it, I say. And saying it out loud feels like a revelation. You can't give me back my house, my garden, my sense of security. You can't give me back the 23 years I spent in that house, the memories I made there. You can't give me back the trust I had in you, the belief that my son would never hurt me. Mom, please. I'm different now. I've learned my lesson. Have you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Are you sorry because you lost the money? Or are you sorry because you hurt me? Another pause. Both, he says finally. I'm sorry about both. I'm glad to hear that, I say. But sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't give me back what I lost. So what do I do? How do I make this right? You don't, I say. You can't. You live with what you've done, and you make sure you never do it again, to me or to anyone else. Does this mean you don't want to see me? Does this mean we can't have a relationship? I think about that, about what I want, about what I can handle. I don't know, I say honestly. I'm not ready to see you. I'm not ready to trust you. I'm not ready to pretend that everything is okay between us. But someday? Maybe someday? Maybe, I say. But not today, and not tomorrow, and not until I'm ready, which might be never. I understand, he says, and for the first time in this conversation, he sounds like the little boy I used to know. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really truly sorry. I know you are, I say, and I'm sorry too. I'm sorry for the ways I failed you as a mother, for the ways I enabled your behavior, for the ways I didn't prepare you for the real world. You didn't fail me. I failed myself. We both made mistakes, I say. But you're the one who has to live with the consequences of yours. After we hang up, I sit on my balcony for a long time, processing the conversation. I feel sad but not devastated, hurt but not broken. I feel like myself, like the woman I've become over this past year, not the woman I was before. I think about forgiveness, about what it means, about whether I've forgiven Daniel or not. I think maybe forgiveness isn't a single moment, a decision you make once and then it's done. Maybe it's a process, something you work on over time, something you choose every day. I think about love, about whether I still love my son. I think I do, but it's different now. It's love with boundaries, love with conditions, love with the understanding that sometimes loving someone means protecting yourself from them. I think about trust, about whether I'll ever trust Daniel again. I think probably not, at least not the way I used to. But maybe that's okay. Maybe trust isn't required for love. Maybe love can exist without trust, can exist with the full knowledge that the person you love is capable of hurting you. I think about my life, about what I've built from the ashes of what I lost. It's smaller in some ways, simpler, more fragile, but it's mine. It's truly mine in a way that the old life never was, because I've built it alone, with my own hands, with my own choices. I think about the future, about what comes next. I'm 59 now, old enough to know that life is fragile and unpredictable, young enough to believe that there are still possibilities I haven't explored. I think about travel, about places I've never been. I think about relationships, about the possibility of finding someone to share this new life with. I think about my work, about the ways I might grow and contribute and make a difference. I think about the woman I was a year ago, standing in my garden, deadheading roses, completely unprepared for what was coming. I feel sorry for her innocence, for her trust, for her belief that the worst thing that could happen was running out of mulch before the weekend. But I also feel proud of her, of the way she handled what came next. She didn't fall apart completely. She didn't give up. She found a way to survive, to adapt, to build something new from the rubble of what was destroyed. I think about the support group, about the other people who've rebuilt their lives after betrayal. I think about Rosa, who showed me that it was possible to start over. I think about Patricia, who opened her home to me when I had nowhere else to go. I think about all the people who've helped me along the way, who've shown me that kindness still exists in the world. I think about Daniel, wherever he is, whatever he's doing. I hope he's truly changed, truly learned from what he's done. I hope he finds peace with himself, finds a way to build a life that doesn't require hurting other people. I hope he finds love, real love, the kind that doesn't require deception or manipulation. And I hope someday, when enough time has passed and enough healing has happened, we might find a way to have some kind of relationship. Not the relationship we had before, but something new, something honest, something based on who we really are rather than who we pretended to be. But that's for the future. Right now, I'm content to sit on my balcony, watching the sun set over the parking lot, tending my small garden, living my small life. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I have. And I'm learning to be grateful for it. The phone rings again, and for a moment my heart jumps, thinking it might be Daniel calling back. But it's Patricia, checking on me, making sure I'm okay. I'm fine, I tell her, and for the first time in a long time, I mean it. I'm actually fine. Are you sure? That must have been hard. It was, I say. But I'm okay. I'm stronger than I used to be. Yes, you are, she says. I'm proud of you, Margaret. I'm proud of how you've handled all of this. Thank you, I say, for everything, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. After we hang up, I water my herbs one more time, then go inside to make dinner. It's a simple meal. Pasta with the basil I grew myself. But it tastes like home. My home, the one I've built with my own hands, my own choices, my own strength. Tomorrow I'll go to work, and I'll help customers find what they need. I'll train new employees and solve problems and contribute something meaningful to the world. It's not the life I planned, but it's a life worth living. And maybe, just maybe, there are still surprises waiting for me. Maybe there are still possibilities I haven't imagined, still dreams I haven't dreamed, still versions of myself I haven't discovered. I used to think my life was over when I lost my house. Now I understand that sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you clears the way for something better, something truer, something more authentically yours. I sleep well that night, in my own bed, in my own apartment, in my own life. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm ready for whatever comes next, because I've learned something valuable over this past year. I'm stronger than I knew, more resilient than I imagined, and more capable of rebuilding than I ever believed possible. The woman who lost everything is also the woman who found herself. And that, perhaps, is worth more than any house, any garden, any security I thought I needed. 3 months after Daniel's call, my life takes another unexpected turn. I'm working the morning shift at the grocery store, helping an elderly customer find sugar-free products for his diabetic wife, when I notice a woman in the produce section who looks frustrated and confused. She's well-dressed, probably in her 70s with silver hair and an expensive handbag. But there's something lost about her expression as she stares at the apples. "Can I help you find something?" I ask, approaching her with the gentle tone I have learned works best with customers who seem overwhelmed. "I'm looking for Honeycrisp apples," she says, her voice carrying a slight tremor. "My granddaughter loves them, but I can't seem to find them anywhere." I guide her to the right section, where the Honeycrisp apples are clearly labeled. As I'm helping her select the best ones, I notice her hands shaking slightly as she reaches for the fruit. "Are you feeling all right?" I ask gently. Her eyes fill with tears. "I'm sorry. I'm just having trouble concentrating lately. Everything seems so confusing." Something about her vulnerability reminds me of myself during those first terrible weeks after losing my house. The disorientation, the feeling of being lost in a world that suddenly doesn't make sense. "Would you like to sit down for a moment?" I ask, noticing a bench near the pharmacy section. There's no rush. Her name is Eleanor Pemberton, and as we sit together, she tells me about her struggles with early-stage dementia. She's been living independently in her large house in the hills, but simple tasks are becoming increasingly difficult. "My daughter wants me to move to assisted living," she says, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "But I've lived in that house for 45 years. It's where I raised my children, where my husband and I grew old together. I can't bear the thought of leaving it." "I understand," I say, and I truly do. The attachment to a place, the feeling that your home is part of your identity, the fear of losing everything familiar. I lost my house too, about a year ago. Different circumstances, but the grief is real. "How did you manage?" she asks. "How did you go on?" I think about how to answer that, how to distill a year of pain and growth into something meaningful. "One day at a time," I say. "And with help from people who cared about me. You don't have to do this alone." Over the next few weeks, Eleanor becomes a regular customer, always seeking me out when she comes in. She tells me about her late husband, a professor of literature who filled their house with books. She tells me about her daughter, who lives in Seattle and calls every day, but doesn't understand why her mother is so resistant to change. "She means well," Eleanor says one day, as I help her navigate the confusion of different breakfast cereal options. "But she thinks the solution is to simplify everything. to put me somewhere safe and sterile. She doesn't understand that I need my memories around me. I find myself looking forward to these conversations. Eleanor is intelligent and articulate, with a sharp wit that dementia hasn't dimmed. She's traveled extensively, speaks 3 languages, and has a deep knowledge of art and literature. But she's also increasingly vulnerable, struggling with basic tasks that used to be automatic. One day she doesn't show up for her usual shopping trip. I'm concerned, but I don't have her contact information. 2 days later she appears again, but she looks disheveled and confused. I got lost, she admits, her voice barely above a whisper. I've been driving the same route for 20 years, but yesterday I couldn't remember how to get home. I sat in my car in a parking lot for 2 hours before I figured it out. That's when I make a decision that surprises even me. Eleanor, would you like some help at home? I mean, would you consider hiring someone to help you with daily tasks? I can't afford a full-time caregiver, she says, and I don't want a stranger in my house. I'm not a stranger, I point out, and it wouldn't have to be full-time. Maybe just a few hours a week, help with grocery shopping, organizing, that sort of thing. I could use the extra income and you could use the company. Her eyes light up for the first time in weeks. Would you really consider that? That's how I end up with a second job, spending my afternoons at Eleanor's beautiful house in the hills. It's everything my old house wasn't. Grand, elegant, filled with antiques and artwork collected over decades of travel. But it's also everything my old house was. A home filled with love, memories, and the accumulated treasures of a life well lived. The work is different from anything I've done before. I help Eleanor organize her medications, accompany her to doctor's appointments, and assist with household tasks that have become overwhelming. But more than that, I become her companion, her link to the world outside her increasingly confused mind. You have such a calming presence, she tells me one afternoon as we're sorting through old photographs. You don't make me feel stupid when I can't remember things. My son used to make me feel stupid, I find myself saying. He would use big words and technical terms when he was talking about his schemes, making me feel like I was too old and ignorant to understand. But intelligence isn't about knowing fancy words. It's about understanding people, about solving problems, about adapting to new situations. You're very wise, Eleanor says, studying a photograph of her late husband. I think you're wasted in that grocery store. I'm not wasted anywhere, I reply, surprised by my own conviction. Every job has dignity. Every role has purpose. I'm helping people, whether it's finding the right apples at the store or helping you organize your medications. But Eleanor's comment stays with me. Over the following weeks, as I spend more time in her house, I begin to see myself through her eyes. She treats me not as hired help, but as an equal, someone whose opinions matter, whose presence adds value to her life. You should go back to school, she says one day as I'm helping her sort through her husband's extensive library. You have a natural intelligence that could be developed. I'm almost 60, I protest. It's too late for me to start over academically. Nonsense, she says firmly. My husband didn't get his PhD until he was 55. He always said that life experience was the best preparation for serious study. The idea seems impossible, but Eleanor is persistent. She shows me the community college catalog, points out programs for returning students, talks about financial aid and flexible scheduling. Her enthusiasm is infectious, and I find myself considering possibilities I'd never imagined. What would I study? I ask. What interests you? What have you always wondered about but never had the chance to explore? I think about that question for days. What does interest me? What am I good at? What gives me satisfaction? The answer comes to me gradually. I'm good with people. I'm good at solving problems. I'm good at helping others navigate difficult situations. I'm good at seeing potential in people that others might overlook. Social work. I tell Eleanor one afternoon. I think I'd like to study social work. Her face lights up. That's perfect. You're already doing it in a way. You're helping me. You help customers at the store. You help people in your support group. You have a gift for making people feel seen and valued. That night, I sit on my balcony with the community college catalog, reading about their social work program. It's a 2-year associate degree, designed for working adults, with evening and weekend classes. The idea terrifies and excites me in equal measure. I call Patricia to discuss it. Do you think I'm crazy? I ask. Starting college at my age. I think you're brave, she says. I think this whole experience has shown you that you're capable of more than you knew. Why not see how far you can go? The application process is daunting. I haven't been in school in 40 years, and the requirements seem designed for people much younger than me. But Eleanor helps me, proofreading my essays, encouraging me when I want to give up. You have stories to tell, she says, as I struggle with the personal statement. You have experiences that will make you a better social worker than someone who's never faced real hardship. When my acceptance letter arrives, I stare at it for a long time before it sinks in. I'm going to be a college student. At 59, I'm going to pursue a degree in social work. Eleanor is more excited than I am. We're going to celebrate, she announces. I'm taking you to dinner at the best restaurant in town. The restaurant is elegant, expensive, the kind of place I never would have imagined going to. But Eleanor insists, and as we sit across from each other in the candlelit dining room, I realize how much our relationship has evolved. We're no longer employer and employee. We're friends. I want to tell you something, Eleanor says as we're finishing our meal. My daughter has been pressuring me to move to assisted living, and I've been resisting. But knowing you'll be starting school, knowing you'll be building a new career, it makes me think maybe it's time for me to make some changes too. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, I assure her. But maybe I do, she says. Maybe holding on to the past isn't serving me anymore. Maybe it's time for me to try something new too. Over the next few months, Eleanor begins to consider her options. She visits several assisted living facilities, looking for one that feels right. She starts the process of downsizing, deciding what to keep and what to let go. I want you to have something, she tells me one day, as we're going through her husband's books. Something to remember me by. She hands me a leather-bound journal, its pages filled with her husband's handwriting. He wrote in this every day for 30 years, she says. Thoughts, observations, reflections. He always said that writing helped him make sense of the world. I can't accept this, I protest. This is too personal, too valuable. That's exactly why I want you to have it, she says. You've helped me make sense of my world when everything felt chaotic. I want you to have something that might help you make sense of yours. I start classes in the fall, 2 evenings a week and 1 Saturday morning. The other students are mostly younger, but there are a few people my age, all of us starting over for different reasons. There's Maria, a divorced mother of 3, who wants to help other women escape abusive relationships. There's James, a retired military officer who wants to work with veterans. There's Susan, a former teacher who wants to specialize in child welfare. The coursework is challenging but engaging. I'm learning about human development, social systems, research methods, and intervention strategies. But more than that, I'm learning about myself. I'm discovering that I have a good analytical mind, that I can write clearly and persuasively, that I have insights worth sharing. My professors are encouraging. Dr. Rodriguez, who teaches the intro course, pulls me aside after class one day. You bring a unique perspective to our discussions, she says. Your life experience adds depth to your understanding of the material. Have you considered pursuing a bachelor's degree after you complete your associates? The idea hadn't occurred to me. But now that she's mentioned it, I can't stop thinking about it. Could I really go that far? Could I become a professional social worker, not just someone who helps people informally? Eleanor moves to an assisted living facility in the spring, a beautiful place with gardens and activities and staff trained to work with dementia patients. She's nervous about the transition, but she's also excited about the possibility of making new friends, of having support when she needs it. I'm proud of you, she tells me the day before she moves. You've shown me that it's possible to start over, to build something new from what seems like nothing. You've inspired me to be brave. You've inspired me too, I tell her. You've shown me that I'm capable of more than I knew. You've helped me see myself differently. We stay in touch after she moves. I visit her regularly, bringing her updates on my studies, listening to her stories about her new life. Her condition progresses slowly, but she remains sharp and engaged, especially when we're talking about my education. I always wanted to be a teacher, she tells me one day. But women didn't have the same opportunities when I was young. I'm living my dreams through you. The 2 years pass quickly. I maintain my job at the grocery store, work part-time for Eleanor, and then visit her regularly, attend classes, and study. It's exhausting, but exhilarating. I'm learning not just about social work, but about myself, about my capabilities, about the person I'm becoming. My classmates become friends. We study together, support each other through difficult assignments, celebrate each other's successes. I'm no longer the isolated woman who lost everything. I'm part of a community, working toward a common goal. The support group continues to meet, and I start to take on more of a leadership role. Dr. Chen encourages me to share my experiences with newer members, to help them see that recovery is possible. You're a natural at this, she tells me after I facilitate a particularly difficult session. You have a gift for helping people process trauma and find their way forward. It's not a gift, I say. It's experience. I've been where they are. That's exactly what makes it a gift, she replies. Not everyone who goes through trauma becomes able to help others heal from it. You've transformed your pain into purpose. Graduation day arrives in May. I'm 51 years old, wearing a cap and gown, walking across a stage to receive my associate degree in social work. Patricia is there, cheering loudly from the audience. Eleanor is there too, in her wheelchair, her daughter beside her. Several of my classmates' families are there, but I'm not sad that Daniel isn't. This achievement is mine, built on my own effort, my own determination. After the ceremony, Eleanor's daughter approaches me. I wanted to thank you, she says. What you've done for my mother, the way you've helped her through this transition, it's been incredible. She talks about you all the time. Your mother helped me too, I tell her. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She wants to do something for you, her daughter continues. She's been planning this for months. She wants to help you continue your education, to pursue your bachelor's degree. I'm stunned. I can't accept that kind of help. You can and you will, Eleanor says firmly, wheeling her chair closer to us. I don't have much time left, and I want to spend my money on something meaningful. Helping you become a social worker is the most meaningful thing I can think of. Her generosity overwhelms me. With her financial help, I can quit my job at the grocery store and focus on my studies. I can pursue my bachelor's degree at the State University in their program for working adults. Why? I ask her, tears streaming down my face. Because you saved me, she says simply. Not just from the confusion and fear, but from despair. You helped me see that even in the midst of loss, there can be hope. You helped me understand that endings can also be beginnings. I hug her carefully, mindful of her frailty. Thank you, I whisper, for everything. Thank you, she whispers back, for seeing me, for treating me like a person instead of a problem, for helping me feel valuable even when I was losing myself. The next 2 years are a whirlwind of advanced coursework, internships, and practical experience. I work with families in crisis, help people navigate the social services system, and advocate for clients who can't advocate for themselves. I'm older than most of my classmates, but that's an advantage. I bring maturity, life experience, and a deep understanding of what it means to lose everything and have to start over. My professors encourage me to consider graduate school. You have the potential to be a clinical social worker, Dr. Martinez tells me. You could have your own practice, specialize in trauma and family therapy. The idea is both thrilling and terrifying. Graduate school means 2 more years of study, more debt, more uncertainty. But it also means the possibility of helping people at the deepest level, of making a real difference in their lives. I'm accepted to the Master of Social Work program at the State University. Eleanor is delighted but also declining. Her dementia has progressed significantly, and she's no longer able to have complex conversations. But when I visit her to share the news, she smiles and nods. Proud, she says, one of the few words she can still manage clearly. So proud. She passes away peacefully in her sleep, 2 weeks before I start graduate school. At her funeral, her daughter tells me that Eleanor had changed her will in the final months, leaving me enough money to complete my master's degree without financial stress. She said you were the daughter she never had, her daughter tells me. She said you gave her hope when she thought her life was over. I think about that as I sit in my first graduate-level class, surrounded by students young enough to be my children. I think about the woman I was 4 years ago, broken and homeless, sure that my life was over. I think about the journey that brought me here, the people who helped me along the way, the strength I discovered I had. The professor, Dr. Williams, is talking about resilience, about the human capacity to recover from trauma and build meaningful lives. She's talking about post-traumatic growth, the idea that sometimes people don't just recover from terrible experiences, but actually become stronger, more compassionate, more purposeful. Can anyone share an example of post-traumatic growth? She asks. I raise my hand. I can, I say, and I begin to tell my story. As I speak, I watch the faces of my classmates change. They're listening not just to an academic example, but to a lived experience, a real person who has transformed pain into purpose. When I finish, the room is quiet for a moment. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Williams says. That's a perfect example of how trauma can become a source of strength and wisdom. After class, several students approach me. They want to know more about my journey, about how I found the courage to start over. I realize that I'm not just a student anymore. I'm also a teacher, someone who can help others understand that recovery is possible. That night, I sit on my balcony with Eleanor's husband's journal, reading his thoughts about resilience and hope. I start to write my own thoughts, my own reflections on the journey from loss to recovery to purpose. Life is not about avoiding pain, I write. It's about learning to transform pain into something meaningful. It's about discovering that we're stronger than we know, more resilient than we imagine, and more capable of growth than we ever believed possible. I think about Daniel, wonder where he is, whether he's truly changed. I haven't heard from him since that phone call over a year ago. Sometimes I miss the son I thought I had. But I don't miss the anxiety and fear that came with loving someone so recklessly. I think about the future, about finishing my master's degree, about starting a practice that specializes in helping people rebuild their lives after betrayal and loss. I think about the clients I'll serve, the families I'll help, the difference I might make. I think about the woman I've become, and I'm proud of her. She's not the woman I was before the betrayal, but she's not broken either. She's someone new, someone stronger, someone who has learned to find hope in the darkest places. My phone buzzes with a text from Patricia. "Proud of you, little sister." Mom and Dad would be proud too. I smile, looking out at the city lights twinkling below. Tomorrow I'll go to class, learn something new, take another step toward the person I'm becoming. But tonight, I'm content to sit here in my small apartment, in my small life, grateful for the journey that brought me here. The woman who lost everything found something better, herself. And that, I think, is the greatest gift of all. The end.